Hi everyone, welcome to Difference Frames the World, a permanently demonetized channel to review world affairs from a different perspective. We last updated the channel over 5 weeks ago. One of the primary reasons is that we have to pay bills before publishing any content without getting paid. It has been 1 year since YouTube demonetized the channel, and we do not see any hope of remonetizing it anymore. Instead of keeping the channel going without any hope, we have to open a new channel. It is a difficult decision for us, but it is also the choice of many YouTubers like Nathan Rich, one of our favorite content creators on the platform, who does not update his channel regularly anymore. We are preparing the new channel now, and will publish content there shortly. This channel will be updated occasionally instead. Today we want to discuss the relations between China and the United States, the most critical in the world. We often mention that China and the US would try to improve their relations after America's midterm election and China's 20th Congress. Joe Biden and his Chinese counterpart met at the G20 summit in Indonesia, and they spent 3 hours together, longer than scheduled. Can the two nations amend their broken ties? Here we are saying that the answer is no. Joe Biden has had several virtual meetings with Chinese President Xi Jinping since he took office in early 2021 and expressed his willingness to meet President Xi Jinping multiple times. Still, the latter was reluctant to meet him for various reasons until the G20 summit. As the Chinese leader successfully secured his third term and kept all his dissenters at bay, he decided to attend the G20 summit. He met his old American pal in Bali, a beautiful island in Indonesia. The talk lasted 3 hours, and they were very blunt with each other on multiple topics. It is worth mentioning that the two countries' national leaders had not met for over 3 years despite several rounds of online meetings between Joe Biden and President Xi Jinping since February 2021. The United States initiated the face-to-face talk between the top leaders, and China accepted it unexpectedly. Because of the pandemic and other reasons, President Xi Jinping had not participated in international meetings for nearly 3 years until he clutched his third term. Someone may wonder whether the talk could improve the relations between the US and China. It will not change anything in the short run. There are several reasons. First, Joe Biden is a typical no-action, talk-only leader who cannot make decisions against the will of some big potatoes behind the scenes. He has only 2 years left for his current term, and the chance of winning the next term is meager. Whatever he said will not be taken seriously. Also, it is difficult for him to deliver the correct message. He could not distinguish between 350 million and 350 billion when he said the US would assist Africa, a continent with 54 countries. Before his long-waiting face-to-face talk with his Chinese counterpart, he had several online talks with President Xi Jinping. Still, little they agreed on the phone positively impacted the relations between the two nations. Second, even though he pledged to refrain from using Taiwan to curb China's development, no one believed his promises, which he would forget in 5 minutes. Under his leadership, the US continuously provoked China on the Taiwan issue, crossing the red line frequently in the past 2 years. Third, the Democrats lost control of the House of Representatives, so Joe Biden is lame like a one-legged goose. He could not convince Nancy Pelosi not to visit Taiwan in early August this year, and a Republican speaker will give him more headaches in the future. Immediately after the Republicans took the House of Representatives, they began to take issue with Biden, planning to investigate the Biden family. On December 22, local time, the U.S. House of Representatives voted 222 to 201 to pass a bill requiring annual audits of incumbent presidents. Joe Biden and his family may have trouble. Democrats lost the House to Republicans, which will put Joe Biden in a difficult situation when he wants to push for new bills. Even if he wanted to improve the relations with China, he could only make it with the support of the House, a mission impossible for the coming 2 years. Fourth, it is a bipartisan consensus in the states to outcompete China. As the President of the United States, Joe Biden will do everything he can to curb China's development. All his beautiful promises cannot hide America's intent to defeat China and maintain its global dominance. The last and also the most important reason is the 2024 election year is not far, so Democrats and Republicans will continue to use China as the imaginary enemy. They will spread hatred among America's voters, claiming China causes all of America's problems, and will dominate the world as a non-white race and non-Christian civilization. It is a new version of yellow peril, which has been on American politicians' nerves for nearly 200 years. As a result, the U.S. will not give up any opportunity to weaken China, with whatever means it can employ. As early as 2008, the Obama administration realized the U.S. could not compete with China itself, according to Obama's new book published recently. Consequently, the U.S. wants to join hands with Australia, Japan, India, the UK, and other allies to stop China's rise. India is a tool the U.S. leverages to encircle Beijing, and Taiwan is a critical issue to delay China's progress. India and China had a conflict recently on the disputed border area, and we cannot say it is irrelevant to the joint military drill the U.S. and India conducted on November 29, 7 days before the conflict. China and India have kept a low profile about the conflict, but the hatred between the two nations will not go away quickly. On the Taiwan issue, U.S. politicians and Congress members do not hide their content to contain Beijing with Taipei. Joe Biden himself stressed many times America's commitment to Taiwan. In Bali, no one made any substantial compromises when the U.S. and Chinese leaders met. When delivering a speech at the 20th Congress, President Xi Jinping emphasized that Taiwan is China's problem, and made it clear while meeting Joe Biden at the G20 summit. Joe Biden repeated the same rhetoric, saying the United States does not intend to change China's political system, and does not support Taiwan independence. The U.S. government's One China policy has not changed, and it will not use the Taiwan issue as a tool to contain China, emphasizing that the U.S. hopes for peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. Immediately after he made such remarks when meeting Chinese President Xi Jinping, the U.S. military had a joint exercise with Japan, Australia, Britain, and Canada near Taiwan. The drill finished on November 19, 2022, only 110 kilometers from Taiwan Island. Did the U.S. military want to slap Joe Biden's face in front of the world, or did the U.S. president lie to his Chinese counterpart? Does the U.S. want peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait? Or it wants Taiwan to become another Ukraine in Asia? We do not expect answers, though. In many videos, we pointed out that there would not be any peace or truce between the U.S. and China before China surpasses America. When Joe Biden took office in January 2021, we said the U.S. and China would only have a temporary ceasefire for 1 year. Joe Biden was more sophisticated than his predecessor, Donald Trump, so he might create more trouble to worsen the relations between the two countries. It turns out that the Biden administration is worse than we expected, and the unprecedented tension between Beijing and Washington resulted from America's audacious attempts to undermine China with the Taiwan card. Washington tries to drag China into a proxy war without sacrificing a single drop of American soldiers' blood, just as it did in Ukraine. The Ukraine war has driven Europe's capital to the U.S., so a potential war across the Taiwan Strait will serve the same purpose. The sharp depreciation of Asian currencies, including the RMB, says everything. Russia's special military operation in Ukraine was not smooth, and many American politicians think they overestimated the Russian military's strength before the war broke out. They might think they also overestimated the Chinese army and should not be too cautious to avoid a direct conflict with Beijing, even though Joe Biden promised that the U.S. would not confront China on the Taiwan issue. However, we still believe a direct military conflict between China and the U.S. is least likely, and the Chinese across the Taiwan Strait know better than some Ukrainian leaders. After her resignation as the DPP president, Tsai Ing-wen also faces pressure from various groups to start negotiations with China mainland. Taipei will not fire the first bullet, and Beijing is not in a hurry to reunite with Taiwan, so the long-anticipated proxy war across the Taiwan Strait will not break out shortly as someone expects. Still, the Taiwan issue is a deadlock between Beijing and Washington, and it demands political wisdom to solve it peacefully. Is the U.S. abandoning Taiwan for political and economic reasons? Taiwan is never America's core interest, so Washington will give up Taiwan, but it takes time, and will only come true after a while. Will Blinken's visit to China mainland next year help solve the issue, then? Our answer is no. Antony Blinken is a nobody, and he cannot do anything to speed up the process. If Beijing wants to reunite with Taiwan, it must be well prepared for war and ensure it will win. If you cannot win something from the battlefield, you can never get it from the negotiation table. The reunification day is coming, and we believe it will only take a little time.